I should have listened to the silence. It wasn't the normal kind, the silence of an empty house, or the silence of late-night calm. It was a silence that waited, that watched, that breathed on the other side of the wood. If I had known what waited past that threshold, if I had sensed even an ounce of the horror pressed against the frame, I would have run barefoot into the night rather than turn that rusty brass knob. I wish I never opened that door. God, I wish I never touched it. The night it happened began like any ordinary one. The kind of night that tricks you into thinking your life is safe, predictable, and harmless. The kind that lets you relax your shoulders, forget the shadows, ignore the creaks. It was raining softly outside, a gentle drizzle tapping against the windows of my small rental house. I had moved there only 3 days before, still surrounded by half-opened boxes and half-assembled furniture. The town was quiet, too quiet for someone used to city noise, but I told myself I'd grow used to it. I had no reason to feel afraid, no reason to suspect anything, no reason to even go near that door. But that's how horror works. It crawls into your life through the smallest choices. I remember sitting on the couch that evening, the only fully assembled piece of furniture I owned, with a mug of coffee on a makeshift side table made from a stack of unpacked books. The lamp beside me flickered occasionally, something I told myself was just bad wiring. The house was older than anything I had ever lived in. The floorboards were warped, the paint cracked, the bricks uneven, but it was cheap. And cheap had to be enough. Outside, thunder rumbled far in the distance. I glanced at the clock. 11:43 p.m. Too late for unpacking, too early for sleeping. I felt stuck in that limbo where thoughts grow louder and every sound turns suspicious. Then I heard it. A thump. Soft, then another. Coming from downstairs. At first, I froze. Houses make noises, I reminded myself. Pipes settle. Floors adjust. Wind shifts. That's all. But it didn't sound random. It sounded deliberate, heavy, slow, like something moving with purpose. I put my mug down and stood up. The thumping stopped. I held my breath, listening, waiting. Nothing. I exhaled and shook my head, telling myself it was probably nothing. Probably a loose shutter or a branch brushing the siding. But I couldn't shake the prickle running down the back of my neck. A warning, maybe? Instinct. I walked to the staircase and looked down into the darkness. The light switch was at the bottom, and my flashlight was still packed somewhere. I tried calling out, "Hello?" My voice echoed faintly, swallowed by the dark. No answer. I waited another few seconds, telling myself I would just go back, sit down, forget it. But that's not what I did. Something pulled at me, curiosity mixed with unease. I stepped down each stair slowly, gripping the railing, feeling every drop of cold sweating through my palms. When I reached the bottom, the smell hit me first, a damp, earthy smell, like soil mixed with metal. It wasn't strong, but it was noticeably wrong, unfamiliar, the kind of smell you don't expect inside a home. I reached for the kitchen light switch and flipped it on. The lights flickered, then steadied. Everything looked normal. I walked through the kitchen, the dining area, the narrow hallway. Nothing seemed out of place. Everything was exactly how I had left it earlier that day. I began to feel foolish for being scared by ordinary house noises. Then something caught my eye. The basement door was slightly open. Not much, just an inch or two. Enough for darkness to spill out like ink. Enough for cold air to seep under my skin. I stopped walking. I distinctly remembered closing that door earlier. I hadn't opened the basement once since moving in. The landlord had told me it was just storage space and warned me to watch my step because the stairs were steep. I had no reason to open it. No need to go down there. And yet, the door was open now. My heart pounded slowly, heavily. I approached it, each step feeling heavier than the last. I expected to hear movement again. Something breathing. Something shifting inside that darkness. But there was nothing. No sound, just stillness. I reached out and touched the door, pushing it open slightly. It creaked. The light from the hallway barely reached past the first step. Vanishing into pitch black, the smell grew stronger, damp. Metallic, suffocating. I leaned forward, squinting, trying to see if anything was down there. I saw nothing at first. Nothing except darkness, thick, consuming darkness. Then I heard it, a whisper, soft, faint, impossible. At first I thought it was the wind. But the whisper wasn't random. It was a voice, a low murmur floating upward like smoke. My name. It said my name. Ethan? I stiffened completely. My mouth went dry. No one in this town knew me yet. I hadn't given my number to anyone. I hadn't spoken to anyone except the landlord, and he definitely wasn't in the basement. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I stared down the stairs, feeling ice in my veins. Then the whisper came again. Ethan, come down. Something in the darkness shifted. Not loudly, not clearly, but enough for me to feel the movement. Like a ripple. My legs trembled. My instincts screamed at me to run, to close the door, to nail it shut, to burn the house down. But fear made me stupid, made me hesitate. I leaned in slightly, as if doing so would help me understand. The whisper deepened. Come down. Now. I slammed the door shut and staggered backward, breathing heavily. I didn't care if I looked paranoid. I didn't care how foolish it seemed. That voice was real. Those whispers were real. I rushed back upstairs and locked myself in my bedroom. For almost an hour, I sat on the bed, knees pulled up, listening for any sound, any movement, any sign that something had come up those stairs. Nothing happened. No footsteps. No whispers. No doors opening. By the time the clock hit 2:10 a.m., I convinced myself it had been stress. Exhaustion. Maybe I had imagined the whisper. Maybe the house had odd acoustics. Sleep overtook me eventually, heavy and dreamless. The next morning, sunlight trickled through the window as if nothing had happened. Birdsong replaced the whispers. The fear from the night before felt exaggerated in daylight. The way horror always softens when you can see the world clearly. I went downstairs to check the basement. Door. Was closed. Exactly how I had left it. I tested the knob. Locked. Shook my head and exhaled deeply. Of course, this was all just in my head. Moving stress, isolation, new environment. I tried to laugh it off. The day went normally. Too normally, actually. As if the house was apologizing for the previous night. As if it were pretending. I spent the afternoon unpacking boxes, sorting clothes, assembling the dining table properly. The television played quietly in the background for comfort. By evening, I finally felt relaxed again, until the knock came. 3 slow knocks. Coming from downstairs. Not from the front door. Not from any window, but from the basement door. My blood turned cold instantly. I froze, staring toward the staircase, barely breathing. The knocks came again. 3 again. I crept slowly toward the stairs, each step feeling heavier. When I reached the top, I peered down into the dimness. The basement door was closed, but this time, the handle was turning. Not fully. Not enough to open, just enough to twitch. Just enough to rattle. Just enough to tell me something was twisting it. From the other side, I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. The handle twitched again. A slow, deliberate shake. I stumbled back, heart hammering so hard it hurt. I didn't dare move closer. Then the whisper seeped out. Let me in. Ethan. My chest tightened. Tears pricked my eyes. No, I whispered. No. The whisper grew louder, clearer, more insistent. "Let me in." Then the door frame shook violently, as if something massive had slammed into it from the other side. Dust fell from the ceiling. The entire house trembled. I gasped and ran back to the living room. Grabbing my car keys, I needed to get out. I sprinted to the front door and yanked it open. I froze. Standing outside was the landlord. Mr. Harrow. He was pale, sweating, eyes wide. "Don't open that door," he whispered urgently. I stared at him, panting, shaking. "You know what's in there?" He nodded slowly. His lips trembled. "I should have sealed it better before you moved in. I thought it was gone." My stomach dropped. "What's gone?" He opened his mouth to speak, but then the house behind me groaned loudly. Something was coming up the stairs. Footsteps. Heavy, dragging footsteps. The door wasn't locked anymore. Something had opened it. "Run!" Harrow yelled. I didn't hesitate. I bolted out the doorway with him, but as we reached the car, I heard the voice behind me. Not a whisper this time. A scream. A deep, inhuman scream that ripped through the air and rattled my bones. I looked back. Shouldn't have. At the top of the stairs stood a figure. Tall, twisted, disfigured. Its limbs were too long. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Its skin looked stretched, like it had been pulled too tightly over sharp bones. But worst of all, it had no eyes, just dark, hollow sockets like tunnels. And its mouth was wide open, as if frozen in a permanent scream. The skin torn at the corners as though it had tried to split its own face in half. It stepped forward, turned, and ran harder than I ever had in my entire life. We jumped into the car, Harrow yelling at me to drive, but as I fumbled the keys, as my hands shook and the engine struggled to turn over, I saw that hideous thing step out onto the porch, even in daylight. It was monstrous. It turned its head toward me. Empty sockets locked onto my trembling form. Then it spoke, not whispered. Spoke. "You opened the door." The engine roared to life. I sped away, wheels screeching, heart pounding, breath shaking. We didn't stop for miles. When we finally pulled over, I turned to Harrow, desperate for answers. "What was that?" I gasped. "What the hell was that thing?" He looked at me slowly, fear etched deep into his face. "That thing," he whispered, "was once human." He swallowed hard. "And it's not the only one down there." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" He stared at the empty road ahead. "There were screams coming from under that house long before you moved in," he said quietly. "People went missing. Families vanished. We sealed the basement 15 years ago. Buried the real door." I froze. "The real door?" I echoed. He nodded grimly. "The door you opened wasn't supposed to exist anymore." My throat tightened. "What's down there?" I whispered. He looked at me. "It's not a basement." A chill crawled through my veins. "It's a doorway," he said, "to somewhere that should never be opened." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The car engine ticked softly as it cooled. The rain eased into a mist around us. We sat on the edge of an empty back road, trees leaning over like silent witnesses. Every breath I took felt too loud, too sharp. My mind replayed the image of that thing, those hollow sockets, that torn, screaming mouth again and again, until the nightmare felt stitched into my skull. Finally, when I could breathe without shaking, I turned to Harrow. "You need to tell me everything," I whispered. "Right now." His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted, haunted. He leaned back in the passenger seat and exhaled deeply, like he'd been holding his breath for years. "It started with them," he said softly. "The Mitchell family. They lived in your house back when I was just a teenager. The rain pattered lightly against the windshield. I didn't move. Didn't blink. They were a normal family. A bit private. Kept to themselves. The father, Daniel, was quiet but polite. His wife, Mira, always had this calm smile. Their 2 kids, Anna and Wyatt, they were maybe 12 and 14. His voice wavered, and one night, he continued, they vanished. How? I whispered, no one knows. No struggle, no signs of forced entry. They were just gone. Police searched for months. Neighbors whispered theories. Eventually, the town moved on. He paused, but I didn't. He stared out the window, eyes distant. I was friends with Wyatt. We used to play video games at their place after school. I knew that house better than anyone. I knew something was off even back then. The basement always felt wrong. Cold even in summer. And sometimes, we'd hear noises. My skin prickled. What kind of noises? He swallowed. Footsteps. Shuffling. Sometimes. Crying. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of his words hanging between us. I thought it was just the house, he murmured. Old wood, rats, whatever. Until the night before they disappeared. He turned to me, voice trembling. I heard screaming. My heart clenched. From inside the house? He shook his head slowly. No, from under it. A chill ripped through me. I told my dad, Harrow said. He told me to stay out of their business. He looked pained. I should have told someone else. Anyone else. I didn't interrupt. I needed him to keep talking. I needed answers. A month after they vanished, Harrow said, the new owners moved in. 2 weeks later, same thing. Quiet family. No problems. Then one night, they vanished too, I whispered. He nodded. And the people after that. And the people after that. A pattern so exact, it couldn't be coincidence. His hands tightened into fists. People didn't want to believe it. But I knew it had to be coming from under the house. So what did you do? I broke in, he said. At 2 a.m. I went down to the basement. He shuddered. I shouldn't have. What did you see? His voice dropped to a shaky whisper. A door. My pulse quickened. Not the one you opened, he said. Another one. In the back wall, completely hidden behind an old freezer. I didn't even know it was there until I heard it. He closed his eyes. A voice, he said, calling my name. Just like it called yours. I felt ice crawl up my spine. What did it say? I asked. It said, help me, in Wyatt's voice. He stared at me, eyes trembling. But Wyatt had been missing for months. I felt sick. I opened it, Harrow whispered. Tears filled his eyes. I thought maybe he was trapped. Maybe everyone was trapped. I thought I was saving them. He wiped his face, but I wasn't. The air inside the car felt heavy, suffocating. What was behind it? I whispered. He shook his head slowly. No room. No stairs. No basement walls. He looked at me with hollow eyes. Just darkness. Endless. Thick like smoke. And I heard something move in it. Something big. Something hungry. My stomach twisted. I slammed the door shut, he said. Ran. Told my father what I saw. He believed me, shockingly. Maybe he had always suspected. He swallowed. He sealed the basement himself. Bricked up the door. Reinforced everything. Had the house rewired so the basement lights wouldn't even work. My jaw tightened. But someone, he continued, his voice brittle, years later, broke into the basement to store tools. They tore down the false wall. They saw the door. And they tried opening it. My breath trembled. And more people vanished, I said softly. He nodded. My father built a second door. A heavy one. Bolted it. Poured concrete up to the hinges. He paused. No one ever opened it again. I stared at him, confusion creeping through me. But I opened it. No, he said. You opened a door, but not the real one. I blinked. What do you mean? That door, the one you opened, shouldn't exist. It wasn't part of the house design. I never saw it before. His voice cracked. That means the thing on the other side made a new one. A cold shock ran through me. It wants out, he said. And it used your name. That means it's not just hunting, it's attached. My stomach twisted. It followed me? Worse, he whispered. It marked you. My chest tightened. No. Then why did it attack? I asked. If it wanted me, why not take me that night? He stared at the fogged window. Because it doesn't want you dead, he said. It wants you to come back. I fell silent. I've studied that thing for nearly 20 years, he murmured. It never leaves the threshold. It can't step too far into our world, not without pulling someone back into its own first. My trembling slowed as horror sank in. It wants you, he repeated. In there. It needs someone alive to take back. My throat tightened until it hurt. So what do we do? I whispered. Harrow hesitated. We destroy the door. How? He looked at me grimly. We go back. I stared at him, stunned. Are you insane? That thing nearly got us. He nodded slowly. I know. But if we don't go back, it will come. Not for you, for others. Anyone who gets near that house. Anyone who hears it whisper. His expression darkened. And it won't stop. It never stops. I sank into the seat, heart hammering. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to see that thing again. I didn't want to hear it speak my name. But Harrow was right. If we didn't stop it, more people would suffer. More would vanish. The same way the Mitchells did. The same way all the others did. I exhaled shakily. Okay, I whispered. We go back. He nodded once, but not unprepared. I frowned. What do you mean? He opened the glove compartment and pulled out a small, worn leather journal. Asterisk. This belonged to my father, he said. Everything he learned about that thing. Every attempt to contain it. Every failure. It's all in here. He handed it to me. I hesitated, then opened it. Asterisk. The first pages were notes, observations, dates, diagrams of the basement layout. But the further I flipped, the darker the entries became. Asterisk. The whispering grows. Louder when someone is near. The creature mimics voices. It cannot cross thresholds fully unless invited. Do not respond when it speaks your name. Do not open any door that was not there. Before, my hands shook as I read. Then further down, a final entry. It is learning. I snapped the journal shut. Asterisk. What does that mean? I asked. Harrow swallowed hard. It means exactly what it sounds like, he whispered. It adapts, changes, finds new ways to trick people. We used to be safe as long as we didn't open the basement door. He looked at me with fear in his eyes. But now it can make new ones. My breathing grew shallow. So how do we destroy it? I asked. Asterisk. We don't destroy it, he said quietly. We seal it. Asterisk. With what? I asked. Asterisk. He reached down, lifting a metal case from the floor of the car and placing it on his lap. The latches clicked loudly as he opened it. Inside were tools, heavy chains, iron nails, old rusted symbols etched into metal plates, a thick padlock, some kind of black powder sealed in jars. Asterisk. What is all this? I whispered. Asterisk. Everything my father used to keep it contained, Harrow said. Everything he swore would stop it from ever getting out. I stared at the tools, dread curling in my stomach. And it worked? I asked. Asterisk. For 15 years, he said. Until someone disturbed the basement. I exhaled shakily. And now, Harrow murmured, it's your responsibility, too. My throat tightened. Because I opened the door, I whispered. He nodded slowly. And it's bound to your voice now. Asterisk, I wanted to deny it. I wanted to scream that this wasn't fair. But deep down I knew. I felt it. That creature knew me. Knew my name. Knew my fear. Asterisk, and I could still feel it somewhere far behind me, like a thread pulling tight across the distance. Asterisk, we need to go back before nightfall, Harrow said. It's weaker in daylight. If we wait too long, he didn't need to finish that sentence. I already knew. I drove us back. The town blurred past. Trees, houses, empty sidewalks. I barely registered any of it. My mind raced ahead, imagining the house waiting for us. The dark door. The whispers. Asterisk, when we turned onto my street, the house stood perfectly still, as if it had never known horror. As if inside wasn't something ancient and hungry. Asterisk, but something was wrong. The front door was open, just a crack. My stomach sank. Did you leave it like that? Harrow asked sharply. Asterisk. No, I breathed. No, I slammed it shut. I locked it. Asterisk, Harrow exhaled shakily. It's already trying. Asterisk, we stepped out of the car slowly. The air felt heavy, thick, electric. I could almost hear something beneath the silence, a faint hum, like distant breathing. We approached the house together. The steps creaked softly under our weight. The wind seemed to hold itself still. Then, something inside moved. Asterisk, a soft scuttle. A slow scrape. A dragging sound across the floorboards. Harrow's hand tightened on the metal case. Ready? He whispered. No. But I nodded. We pushed the door open and stepped inside. The living room was dim, shadows stretching unnaturally long. The house smelled wrong, like dirt and metal and old rot. Exactly like the basement. Asterisk, something had changed. Something had seeped upward. Harrow pointed. My breath hitched. Asterisk, there, on the floor, were footprints. Wet, muddy footprints, leading from the basement door, asterisk, to the living room, and disappearing behind the hallway. My pulse pounded. Asterisk. Harrow, I whispered. It's out. Asterisk, he swallowed. Not fully. Not yet. It's testing the limits. Footsteps sounded again. Slow. Heavy. Then, the whisper. Asterisk. Ethan? Asterisk, I clenched my jaw, refusing to answer. Harrow grabbed my wrist. Asterisk, don't react, he hissed. It feeds on attention. The whisper came again. Closer. Asterisk. Ethan? You came back. A shape shifted in the hallway. Tall. Wrong. Twitching. Asterisk, I couldn't see its face. But I saw its hand-long, thin fingers curling around the wall. Asterisk. Harrow set the metal case down and knelt, opening jars of black powder, sprinkling them in a line across the threshold to the basement. Asterisk. We need to get to the real door, he whispered. The one in the back wall? My heart thudded. And what about that thing? I whispered. He didn't look up. That's not the real danger. The danger is what it's connected to. Whatever world is behind that door, that's what we must seal. The creature stepped forward, dragging its foot across the floor. I held my breath, forcing myself not to run. Asterisk. Ethan? It murmured again. It was so close I could smell the rot on its breath. Harrow finished the powder line and grabbed the chains. Asterisk. We move on 3, he whispered. 1, 2. The creature lunged. 3. Asterisk. We ran into the hallway. I nearly tripped over a box, catching myself on the wall. The creature's hand scraped the ground behind us, nails tearing wood. It shrieked loud, guttural, furious. Harrow shoved me toward the basement door. "Go!" We burst inside. The basement smelled worse than before, like something had been rotting for centuries. The darkness felt alive, clinging to my skin. The real door stood at the far wall. Old, cold, alien asterisk, it pulsed faintly. Like something was breathing behind it. The creature thrashed upstairs. Harrow threw me the journal. Asterisk, start reading page 46 aloud. He yelled. I fumbled it open with shaking hands. That seal incantation. He shouted. Hurry. I found the page. Symbols. Words I didn't recognize. A language I'd never heard. But I read them. The door vibrated low at first, then violently. The basement air grew colder. Asterisk Harrow lifted the chains, ready to throw them over the door. Something inside the door screamed. A deep, monstrous wail that sounded nothing like the creature upstairs. Asterisk. My voice cracked, but I kept reading. Asterisk Harrow slammed the chains over the frame, hooking them tight. The basement door upstairs exploded open. The creature scrambled down the stairs, limbs cracking, mouth tearing wider. Asterisk Harrow. I screamed. He didn't look. Keep reading. I forced myself to continue. The creature reached the bottom step. Its empty sockets locked onto me. It lunged. Harrow stepped in front of it. The impact threw him against the wall. Asterisk Harrow. He didn't get up. The creature crawled toward me, dragging its twisted limbs. I screamed the last line of the incantation. The real door shrieked. Asterisk light bright. Blinding, violent burst from the cracks. Asterisk, the creature screeched, clawing at its face. Asterisk, the light wrapped around it, pulling, dragging, sucking it toward the door. Asterisk, no. It shrieked, voice distorted, wrong, inhuman. Ethan, come with. The door slammed shut. Silence crashed into the basement. The creature was gone, but so was something else. Harrow? I whispered. He lay still. I ran to him, shaking his shoulder. Asterisk. Harrow. Please. His eyes fluttered open. A weak smile tugged at his lips. Asterisk. You did it, he whispered. I felt tears burn my eyes. You saved them, he said softly. All of them. Asterisk, I shook my head, choking. We saved them. His hand fell away. His chest stilled. And Harrow, the last person who knew the truth, was gone. I sat there, crying in the dim basement. Asterisk, the real door was sealed again. Silent, dead. Asterisk, but as I stood and wiped my face, something caught my eye. The new door, the one I had, opened the first night. Asterisk, it was still there, still cracked open just an inch, still breathing, and from the darkness behind it, a whisper, soft, familiar. Ethan. My blood froze. It wasn't the creature's voice. It was a child's, a girl. Asterisk. Help us. I staggered backward. The Mitchells. They were still in there, still alive, still calling. The door pulsed, faintly, calling my name, begging. Asterisk, and in that moment, I understood the truth. The creature wasn't trying to escape. It was trying to replace itself, to pull me in, to take my place, to be free. I backed toward the stairs, trembling, heart aching with guilt and terror. Asterisk. Ethan, Anna whispered. Please don't leave us. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't close the door. Didn't seal that crack. Asterisk, I fled the house and didn't stop, running until the sunlight blinded me and the screams faded into memory. Asterisk, I wish I could say I never went back. Asterisk, I wish I could say I forgot the voice. Asterisk, I wish I could say I never dream about that. Door asterisk, its crack widening. Its whisper growing louder. Its darkness reaching for me. Asterisk, but every night, the whisper returns. Every night, the pulse grows stronger. Every night, the door waits. And I know the truth now. Someday, I will open it again. Someday, I will answer the call. Someday, I will go through. Asterisk, and when I do, asterisk, I will wish I never opened that door.